Okay, so the first upgrade that we want to make is one that we can purchase. It will increase the number of pizzas the game adds per click. So if we earn enough pizzas, we can spend it on that to make more pizzas faster. And this is going to be another UI button element that we're going to add. We're going to not spend as much time talking through this stuff because it's stuff I've already covered. So I'm adding a button. We should remember what a button is and why I'm adding it. I'm going to change the text so it reads PC, which is going to be short for per click. And I'm going to resize the button so that it's sort of square shaped. So to get it perfectly square, I can just edit it here. I'll put, I don't know, 45 and 45 for height. So it's a kind of square. I'm going to line it up with this side over there. I'm also going to rename this button so it's the same as the other UI elements in my scene. So I'm going to call this one UI button, and this is upgrade per click. Okay, and then the text will be the same. I'll use the same sort of system. UI text, and it's for button upgrade per click. Bit long-winded, but at least I know exactly what it is, what it does. The way these are going to work is I want to communicate to the player what these buttons do. And so rather than have all the information on this button or next to the button, which I could do, but I'm instead going to have one space underneath which is going to have the information about that particular upgrade, which is going to update depending on which one we have our mouse hovered over. So I'm also going to add another UI text element. I'm just going to shuffle this upwards so it's next to, so I'm keeping my buttons together and I'm keeping my text together, and I'm going to call this UI text upgrade info. So this is the text that will give me the information about a particular upgrade, and just readjust the positioning of it. I'll just shove it there like that. I'll change the font color so that it's yellow. I'm going to change the color of my button to yellow, and the text is going to be red. So it's a bit more like a pizza, like cheese with tomato. Anyway, now we've got our button set up, we can start another script which is going to control what happens when we click this upgrade and how this upgrade is going to behave. So right click in our scripts folder, create new C# script. I'm going to call this scr underscore by upgrade, and then I'm going to put another underscore and put per click. So this script is for buying an upgrade and it's for the per click upgrade. Later on in the series we'll do one upgrade that will automatically add pizzas on without clicking, but this is the first power up that we're going to do. Double click that and open it up in Visual Studio or MonoDevelop, whichever. Let's make some variables. So in here I'm going to create a reference to we need to create a reference to the script for clicking, because when we buy this upgrade we want to manipulate the variable that controls how many pizzas we add per click. So in order to reference that from within this script, I need to create a variable for it. So this is going to be called public scr underscore clicking, and I'll just call it click. So whenever I reference click, as a variable, it's referencing that specific script from within the other buttons object. I then want a variable for the text box that we made. So this new text here, in fact I'll just populate that with some gibberish, some gobbledygook, so I can see how that looks. So I want to reference that to be able to update it to whatever the upgrade information is, just like we updated our text at the top here. So we say public text, and I'm going to call this not text alignment, public text, and I'll call this upgrade info because that's the name. Upgrade info, because that's the name of the text. Now you'll notice that my script editor is complaining about this text. It's saying, well, I don't understand what this is. This doesn't exist anywhere. Am I supposed to know what this means? And this is happening because I haven't told Unity to look at using Unity.ui. Using Unity Engine.ui. So as soon as I type that out, it goes, oh, I can look at this for information. There's a reference to text in that. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. And then it's turned a nice aquamarine type colour. Next up is a few float variables. So the first, public float. So the float variables associated with this object and this script are going to be the price of this this upgrade. How many pizzas do we need to have accrued before we can buy this upgrade? And there's a couple that we want to add. So I'm going to call the first one current price. So what is the current price of this variable? Now I'm going to add a few different float variables. So rather than type each one out, rather than go public float price, public float something else, blah blah blah. What you can do is, if you're adding a bunch of variables of the same type together, I can just put a comma and then name another float variable that I want to create. So this one I'm going to call click power. So this one is what we want to update the amount of pizzas per click to when we adjust that other script when we purchase this upgrade. And then finally, I'm going to create one called power of, and I'll come back to that one later. I'm also going to create a string variable. So this is public string. I'm going to call this one upgrade name. So this is the name of the upgrade that I'll be able to edit from the editor. Next, so by default we've got update and start functions. We don't actually need either of these, so I'm going to get rid of both of them. So we've just got empty scripts currently, and all we've got is declaring a few variables. So the first function that I'm going to create is going to be a void, and this function is going to be when we purchase this upgrade, what's going to happen. So it's just going to be called purchase upgrade. So when we create a function, we public void the name of the function, open close brackets, and then we can add in some curly braces, and then whatever's inside these curly braces is what happens when this function is called. So when we purchase this upgrade in the game, the first thing, or when we attempt to purchase it, the first thing that we need to check, or get Unity to check, is does the player have enough currency to be able to purchase this upgrade. So we're going to use an if conditional. So I'm saying if, and then open bracket, and I'm saying if the value of the current number of pizzas is greater or equal to the current price of this upgrade, and then change some other variables. So the variable for the current total of pizzas is not in this script. We don't have it here. That is why we need to reference the other one. So if I put click, then when we update this in the editor after we've saved this and we place this script into that slot, it'll go, okay, I'll look at the click script underscore clicking, and then it will, and then we can say dot counter number. So as I'm typing it, it's telling me, okay, what we've got, dot counter number, so the number of pizzas in that counter. So if click dot counter number is greater or equal to the value of current price, then we add some curly braces under this one as well, so it will check that condition, and then only if the player has enough pizzas, has made enough pizzas, will allow them to purchase this upgrade. When they have done that, what we want to do is remove the cost of this upgrade from their total count, so they can't just keep building up pizzas and buying upgrades and stuff. So we want to again reference click.counterNumber, and we want to say click.counterNumber subtract the current price variable. So that will subtract the value of current price from this script from the value of counter number from our click script, which is the script underscore clicking. I'm then going to increase the power of variable by 1 each time. So it'll start off as 0 because we haven't given it a default value, so doing so will add 1 to this. So I'm just going to put power of plus plus, so each time it goes that'll just add 1 each time. Again, I'm going to explain more about that later, but for now it'll just remain a mystery. Next up, we want to say click dot. So this is again referencing our click script, and there's the other variable we created within that script from before. So our script clicking over here, we've got amount per click, which starts off as 1. So amount per click, and I'm gonna increase this by whatever we've got our click power variable set to. So it'll, okay, so if this is 1 or 5 or whatever, it'll add 5 to the value of amount per click, which will give us then 6 pizzas per click instead of 1. Once we've done this, we also want to update the price of this upgrade. So we want to say current price for our upgrades. So the system that I'm going to use for for increasing the amount for this upgrade is just going to multiply whatever the current price is by something like 1.15. So it'll just gradually increase in bits. Might not be the best way to do it, but it's just a crude method of doing it for now. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a function called math f, which is just Unity shorthand for our maths function, round. So what this is going to do is it'll just give me a round number. So I want a round whole number, and I'm going to say whatever the current price is multiplied by 1.15, and this is that's a float value, so stick an f in there as well. Okay, so whatever the current price is, multiply that by 1.15f, but also make sure it's a round number. So it's not asking me for this costs 7.856 pizzas, because that would be silly. So just to quickly go through this, when we call this function purchase upgrade, it will check if the current total of pizzas is greater or equal to the price of this upgrade. If we've got more or the same amount of pizzas than the value of this upgrade, then it will remove the value of this upgrade from the total of pizzas. So we've spent the amount. Increases power of by 1, which we'll get to later, and then increases the amount per click variable in our clicking script by whatever we set click power to. It then updates the price of this this upgrade to a round number, multiplying its current price by 1.15. So let's save all this, Control and S, and head back to Unity. So what we want to do is add that script to this object. So I'm going to do it by going to add component and then searching for scr underscore buy, and then we've got the buy upgrade per click script. So I scroll down and it's added a bunch of stuff on there. So this is stuff that we need to, we are referencing from that script, but so these are variables we created, but some of them are empty. In fact, they're all empty. We didn't give any default values in here whatsoever. So with click, we are referencing the script.clicking, so we need to drag the UI button click from the hierarchy. So UI button click, drag that from here into where it says click Lego. So let's added that in there, script.clicking. The upgrade info, so this is this text box here. So this one's called UI text upgrade info. So I'm going to click and drag that into there. In fact, actually, I'll do this one a different way. So clicking on that button, upgrade info, I'm going to click the three dots. This gives me a bunch of different options. So it's UI text upgrade info, double click, and it's the same function essentially as dragging it in. Current price, so I'll set this to 10. And then click power, how much do I want to add on each time? Let's say 5 for now. You can put whatever values you want in. And then power of. Now, that is actually something that I don't need access to in the editor, because it is a variable. Essentially, it's a number that starts at 0 and then increases by 1 each time. It doesn't do anything just yet, but I'll use this opportunity to talk through private variables. So since we started this series, we've just been creating public variables. Now, public variables means that those variables are accessible by other scripts and are also visible within the Unity editor. However, there might be variables that don't necessarily need to be accessed by other scripts. They're just spaced solely within that script, that object. They don't need to be touched. And power of is an example of one of those. So what I could do with this is remove it from that line and just create a new one and put private float power of. Achieves the exact same results, works in exactly the same way, except that now if I go into Unity, it will update and I should no longer have access to the power of variable. I don't need it there, it's just going to clutter this up if I leave it in there. Upgrade name, I'm going to call this microwave, so it's as if we are purchasing a microwave to heat the pizzas up, and it's going to allow us to make more pizzas. I don't know. So if you hit play now, so nothing will happen. So this is because there's a couple of things that we need to do before the script that we've written out will work. Remember, in the inspector view for the button, there's this button script, and at the bottom it's got on click. So we need to tell it that when we click, the function that we want it to do. So if I press the plus icon there, say add function on, and again, I always drag into this objects in this instance, because if you press the three dots, you get a bit more information than what you got when you add text. So in this case, it's easier just to say, well, it's referencing this upgrade per click button. So I'm just going to drag that into there. And the function that I want to do is in script by upgrade per click, and the function is called purchase upgrade. That's what we called our function, and that's the function we want to call. So now let's just test this out. Okay, so we've got 0 pizzas. Nothing's happening when I click this at the minute, but if I add 10 pizzas, then click it, it's subtracted 10 pizzas from our total value, and now when I click this, it makes 5 pizzas. So I can keep going. Maybe I can purchase some more upgrades and keep going. So that's seems quite high powered, but it's working at least. One thing that isn't working though is this UI text. One way you can check the the value of the price of the upgrade is in the inspector. If you make sure you've got the object selected in the editor and scroll down, not the text object, the actual button itself, you can see the variable is set to current price. You can't see it in the game itself, but I know that the current price of that is 74. If I purchase that, it goes up to 85, then 98, 100, and you can see that going up every time I purchase it. So at least we know that it's working correctly. That's it for this one. In the next one, we'll look at making this UI text box update with information about that upgrade.